Welcome to the final week of our series called A Classic Christmas. We've been looking at how to rediscover the best part of the holidays. I hope your Christmas was amazing, first class, a true classic. And Christmas, the good news is Christmas goes on for 2 more weeks. It's the gift that keeps on giving. And maybe you still have family in town, so today I want to talk with you about rediscovering the value of your family. One thing we all have in common is family. None of us was beamed down from outer space. We were born into a family. You did not get to choose where and when you would come into this world, who your parents would be, what kind of neighborhood you would grow up in, or how your lifestyle would turn out. Those things were determined by your family situation. The problem is sometimes we don't always appreciate our families. When we're stressed, upset, worried about a problem, it's easy to lash out, not treat them right, or take your family for granted. That happens a lot. Some people are even embarrassed by their families, think they're unsophisticated, with weird ideas and strange opinions. The holidays can be difficult because of family situations. Studies have found, for example, that nearly 40% of families experience an open disagreement or even an argument during holiday gatherings. Past hurts can make it even more painful. But family is so important. It's why Jesus was born into a family and why we should do whatever it takes, if we need to reclaim good relationships with all our family members and try to see their true value once again. One reason that we sometimes get frustrated with family is that people change over time. The person you married isn't the same as on your wedding day. The man you could not wait to be with when you were younger is now snoring constantly. All night long, he's sawing logs. It's so loud the shingles rattle. So bad you're awake half the night. Or your kids. Your kids are different now. They're grown, don't come to church anymore, or respect your values. They challenge your beliefs, or maybe even look down on you because of what you believe. And maybe, in some ways, they didn't turn out like you had hoped. Or you're dealing with aging parents. They're getting older, more stubborn, refuse to admit that they need help. But they can't hear very well anymore. They forget stuff, and they really need assistance, but you don't have the time, energy, or resources to provide it. But then you feel guilty because you know you should be there for them. This is what happened with my mother. As she got older, she was less and less able to care for herself. At one point, she started having accidents. Every morning, we'd have to change the sheets. Sometimes it would happen during the day. I could be pretty impatient when I was younger. I didn't always treat my mother the way I should. Got angry when I had to clean up the messes. I loved my mom, but didn't always show it. It's a big regret of mine now that she's passed on to the next world. The 4th commandment says, honor your father and your mother. And we always tell little children how important that is, but I think it's even more critical to remember as our parents age. The first reading today, for example, says, take care of your father when he is old. Grieve him not for as long as he lives. Even if his mind fail, be considerate of him. Revile him not all the days of his life. Kindness to a father will not be forgotten. And of course, that's true for mothers as well. When you feel yourself getting frustrated, the key is to remember how valuable your family really is. They are not there by chance. It's no accident that you grew up in the family you did. No coincidence that you met your spouse, fell in love, and got married. Your children are in your life because God put them there. And no matter how annoying, irritating, exasperating they may be, or how much they've changed over the years, or how old they've gotten, they are still your family. They are a gift to you. Some people look at their family members, I think sometimes even, especially younger people, they look at their family members and they think, they're ordinary, average, nothing special. There's way more interesting and accomplished people out there in the world, people you respect and admire. I think often we're a little too quick to size up our family members, think we know everything about them, label them as common or run-of-the-mill. But they are precious in God's eyes, never dull or uninteresting. To Him, and this may shock you, to God, your family is actually fascinating. They're intriguing mysteries waiting to be understood and appreciated. This is how we should see our family. We can always learn something new about our loved ones and be even more grateful because of it. When my father went to be with the Lord, I learned something about him I had never known before. My dad was a respected professor of physics and chemistry. Throughout his career, he published hundreds of scholarly articles. Growing up, science was literally all he ever talked about. And then when I went to college, I quickly discovered I didn't do very well in science. I didn't have a brain for it. It just did not compute or connect with me. And then I realized my brain, my mind is more oriented to the other side of things, right? Art, music, literature, languages, humanities, history, social sciences, and of course religion. I got that from my mom. And so sometimes growing up, it was hard for me to talk to my dad or to relate to him because, and now I understand this, didn't back then, we thought in two different ways. But after he died, we started going through his effects. You know, books, clothing, personal belongings, and we came across a notebook that we had never seen before. It was full of poetry my father had written. It spoke about his dreams, his aspirations in life, his fascination with the universe, which is why he went into science in the first place. It was written with flowery language, beautiful prose, unexpected rhyme. We were shocked. None of us, including my mom, had never known about this. He didn't tell us about it. He maybe even hid it from us. We didn't see that side of him. Don't assume you know everything about your family. Don't be so quick to put them in a box. Only God knows everything about them. Mary and Joseph knew about Jesus. There's no question they knew who he was. The angel told Mary that she would give birth to the Messiah and the Son of the Most High God, and Joseph learned in a dream that his foster child would one day save his people. This was no common child. But in the gospel story for today, they learned something about Jesus they had never known before. It was the Passover. Millions of people were in Jerusalem for the holiday. It was noisy, chaotic, people crowding into the temple, filling the surrounding areas, cattle and livestock everywhere, children playing in the marketplace. It would have been very easy for a child to have gotten lost in all that commotion, which is exactly what seemed to have happened to Jesus. After the festival was over, his parents were on their way back to Nazareth when they discovered that Jesus was not with them. They had been traveling a whole day. So you can imagine they were panicked, frantic, out of their mind with worry. And I would be too. Put yourself in their shoes. You had one job, protect the Savior of the world, and now he's missing and no one knows where he is. He's missing in action. I'd be worried and upset too. But of course, it wasn't actually totally their fault because back then, in those days, neighbors, acquaintances, and especially extended family members would travel together in these large caravans. So obviously, everyone thought someone else was watching over Jesus. But as it turned out, he wasn't lost at all. The passage says, the boy Jesus remained behind in Jerusalem. It was a choice he made. And when his parents finally caught up with him in the temple, he was sitting among the other teachers, the rabbis, and asking them questions, which sounds like he was learning from them, but actually it was the other way around. Because in those days, the rabbis would always sit down to teach, and they would ask their students questions to help them learn. Jesus was teaching them. Well, Mary comes rushing in there, and she's angry as a hornet. She scolds Jesus. Son, why have you done this to us? Your father and I have been looking for you with great anxiety. And then he said to them, Why were you looking for me? Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house? Another translation says, did you not know I must be about my Father's work? He was saying that his mission, the mission given to him by God, would always be his first priority. And that included teaching and proclaiming the good news of the gospel, which is exactly what he was doing in the temple. It was as if he was saying, why were you looking for me all around the city for 3 days? You should have known I wasn't playing with the other children, that I had to be here doing my Father's work. A little insolent, I get it. But on that day, Mary and Joseph learned something new about their son Jesus that they had never known before. I don't want to be, presumptuous, presume anything. Maybe you have perfect relationships with all your family members. If so, just tune me out for the rest of this homily. Maybe you've already been doing that. But nothing new, right? Anyway, but just in case you're having some problems, here's my advice. If you want to see the good in your family members again, if you want to rediscover their true value, you have to be willing to be surprised, open to learning something new about them, and scratching beneath the surface, looking on the inside. When I was a boy, I met the King and Queen of Sweden. It was a great honor because my mom grew up there. She was born and raised in Sweden, and so it was great to meet them. And when the two monarchs came to the United States for a state visit, my parents took me to a fancy reception, and there was this receiving line where you could meet the royal couple. I had a great time. I was very impressed. But one thing that struck me was that they did not wear fancy clothes. They were dressed in ordinary attire. The king had on a navy suit. The queen, an elegant but ordinary dress. They didn't wear crowns, hold scepters, or sit on thrones. We didn't have to genuflect or curtsy before them. And I was thinking, if I had passed them on the street like that, I would never have guessed they were royalty. This is how it is with our family. We often miss the greatness in them because we only see them in a certain light. Scripture says that we're all God's children and that one day we will be even more than that. The second reading today puts it this way: we shall become like God and see him as he really is. What would it be like for you if you could truly see your family members for who they really are? Sons and daughters of the Most High God. People destined to become like God one day. Wouldn't you see them in a different light? Wouldn't you be a little more appreciative? Appreciate them a little bit more? I think so. I think I would appreciate my family more if I could see clearly who they really were through God's eyes. Well, Father Roger, I know what you're thinking. You don't know my family, okay? My kids leave their stuff everywhere. My wife is always nagging me about that honey-do list. My parents, I'm a grown-up person. They're still telling me what to do. My siblings are fighting all the time. My aunt goes around gossiping about everybody in the family. My uncle makes people uncomfortable with his political views. And don't get me started on Grandpa. He's always passing gas at the table. Father Roger, I can't take it anymore. They are getting on my last nerve. I get it, right? So family situations can be hard. And as an important addition to this homily, I do want to say that some family situations can be brutal. And I would never suggest that you put up with abuse or tolerate mistreatment. Some things are so bad you just have to walk away from them. But I suspect that for most of us, if not almost all of us here today, if we could truly see how beautiful, blessed, valued, favored by God, how talented God sees them, how precious they are in God's eyes, your family members, we would begin to see them in a different way. They seem ordinary to you. You consider them ordinary, but inside, they are actually royalty, members of God's royal family. Mary and Joseph didn't understand what Jesus was saying to them about having to be in his Father's house. And I think about that line and I think, Jesus probably got pretty frustrated with his parents sometimes, just being raised by mere mortals. I can imagine him like, keep up, guys, because of course he was a genius, the Son of God. But as the passage says, he went down with them and came to Nazareth and was obedient to them. I'm sure that like Jesus, you may get frustrated with your family from time to time, but they're not always going to be here. I know you know that. One day your parents will go home to be with the Lord if they haven't already, and you will miss them. Your extended family members, siblings, they will all depart this earth one day. And you will miss them as well. It seems to me that today is the perfect day to tell your family how much you love them, to overlook their flaws, to recognize what a gift they are to you right now, even with all those faults. Today is the perfect day to appreciate your family for the people God created them to be. My advice? Go home and thank God for your family. If they're there, or even if they're not, tell them how much you love them. Be grateful for them. They are all you have. If you want to have a classic Christmas with those you hold most dear, try to take on a new perspective. See them in a new light and rediscover their true value.